Hi, I'm Joanne Banko, author and online educator at letsgosew.com. I have a great gift project for you today. You know, making gifts is probably one of the most special things you can do as a sewing and embroidery enthusiast. And it's wonderful to have a gift that you can kind of always keep tucked in your back pocket, so any occasion you can make an appropriate gift for somebody. I'm going to show you today how to make in the hoop coasters and a coordinating organza gift bag. So take a look at the sample here. It's, we did a little bit of a fancy style on this one, but certainly you can tone down the fabrics, use ordinary cottons, you can even use denim, and do it, in your own style. But it makes a great housewarming gift, makes a great wedding gift, different kinds of occasions like holiday gatherings. Be a stunning star, for the hostess the next time when you bring something like this. It really is good to have just a really great gift project. So let's talk about the supplies I use. I started with silk du peony, and I just love embroidering on silk du peony. Almost everything you do on it just looks rich and beautiful, and it does come in a lot of different colors. And it's one of those fabrics that's very, very easy to embroider because it presses so well. And in fact, I even wash my silk du peony. We'll give you some tips on that in the download that you can get from the website. But another alternative would be, like I said, cotton. Or for another elegant look, I like to use linen. And in particular, I like to look for linen that is sold normally for hand embroidery. It has a very fine weave and a very fine count, and it just looks really beautiful when you do embroidery on it. I usually will add a layer of fusible interfacing, though, to that, just to beef it up a little bit. With the silk du peony, I have added a layer of just cotton batting. Same type of batting you would normally use for quilting is what I like to add, just that little extra puff. It just gives a little bit more thickness to your coaster and really makes the embroidery stitch out beautifully. I don't have to add any other extra stabilizer when I do that, so just the silk du peony and the batting layered in the hoop. Now, a lot of times, people get a little nervous about using fabrics that are a little higher end. Maybe you're spending just a little bit more money on them. And I'm probably one of the most frugal seamstresses around. In fact, I don't like to waste anything. But I do like to use quality fabrics. I also like to minimize waste. So just wanted to share a little tip with you today. If you're going to be cutting pieces like this, you have to cut them oversized. You'll see in a minute the steps. But because they're oversized to fit in the hoop, they have to fit in tightly. So you have to cut a margin around. But instead of just, randomly cutting blocks of fabric, what I recommend you do is take the hoop that you're going to use, lay it on a piece of paper, and actually trace around. You can see I've just got like an indentation there, but you could trace around that with a marker or a pencil, and then add at least a half to an inch all the way around. That'll give you enough. If you look and you compare the paper to the fabric I have in my hoop, that'll give you enough for it to clamp in tightly and have your fabric sit solidly in the hoop. So that's just a little tip for you on that. Let's talk about the rest of the supplies that you need for the bag. Other than the silk du peony, we want to make a bag that is sheer or semi-sheer so that the beauty of those coasters shine through. You're the designer. You can make a bag any size you want to. If you choose fabric like this one here, my red fabric, it's sold very wide. You want to look for this type of fabric in the bridal and special occasion section, and very often these fabrics are 60 inches wide. If you buy a quarter of a yard, that's 9 inches wide, and you buy, the whole, obviously the width of the fabric, you can make a bag that's very tall. So you can put lots of different things in there. I made some variety of sizes today, so you'll see that, variation. Another common organza, remember these are all synthetics, fabrics that you buy are, designed to be made for fancy garments, but you'll find sparkles, you'll find, kind of the sheer that's transparent or semi-transparent. So shop around, see what you like. Silk du peony, obviously that's a natural fiber, but these are synthetic. So when we talk about putting everything together, I'll give you some more tips on the fabric. Now, what else might you need for this? Well, you need thread, you need embroidery thread. And you can see I used my favorite, my absolute favorite color combination for embroidery designs when I can't think of anything else is always silver and gold, because it always looks rich and it always looks beautiful together. Obviously, if you're doing this for a wedding gift or shower gift, maybe an engagement gift, that's really going to give it that little extra special character. So metallic thread. And then I'm going to need some type of cording. So again, I like to coordinate everything. So I might find a metallic cord that an actual gold metallic. But if I don't, then I just look for the gold color in the cording. This is commonly called rat tail cord, and it comes in a lot of different colors. So this type of project, you can really cook up your own color scheme. All right, inside the coaster, we've got batting. That's going to make it nice and padded very well. But let's face it, some people want something that's really, totally, truly waterproof. So my tip for you on that is to go into the housewares section and look for, okay, let's think of what this is called, shelf liner, exactly. Shelf liner, and it's designed to be waterproof. So if you cut the shelf liner piece slightly smaller than your finished shape, you can simply insert it into the back. So let me now just give you a little more clues on the way it's constructed, and then we'll go right over the machine and do it. I've got my front piece, my face piece that's embroidered. On the back, the reason this is called an in the hoop design is I'm going to take two pieces and I'm going to layer them over my embroidered piece. I'm going to have a little pocket that I'm going to be able to turn it right side out, and that's how I would get in there and insert that shelf liner. Okay, so let's go over to the machine. I've got it already set up, and we're going to get started in forming this design. I'm going to back up into the main menu because I started playing around on here and looking for the design I wanted to use. I am actually building a design using built-in designs. So I've got a beautiful alphabet here. If you don't have an alphabet built into your machine, there are lots of them available online that you can download to the machine. So I wanted to maximize the size of the hoop, which is 4 inches. I'm going to go ahead and choose my letter. It's a 2-color letter. Obviously, it's not designed to be in silver and gold, but I can do whatever I want. I'm going to touch Set, and now I'm going to touch Add. And when I add, I'm going to add something else that's built in the machine that I love to use, which is a built-in frame shape. And I'm going to select the octagon. Again, if you don't have shapes built into your machine, you can find things online. You could even finish this off just with sewing if you really wanted to. But I'm going to touch Set. And now I need to resize because my octagon needs to be larger than my letter. So I'm going to touch the size key, and I want, again, maximum. So I'm going to increase that. You can see on the screen I'm set for millimeters right now, but if that were in inches, it would be almost 4 inches, both by height and by width. I'm going to say OK. I am going to end the editing, and I am going to touch embroidery. So the first part of the design is the initial, it's the letter. It's important to make sure when you build your design, if you're getting your designs from other sources, that you always add that octagon last. And you'll see the method to my madness for that in a minute. So we're going to go ahead and lower the presser foot, and we're going to start stitching this beautiful design. I've got a little tail here, so I'm just going to take the first few stitches and clip that thread. That just makes it a little bit neater. Usually your tail gets swept up in the first few stitches. And let's take a look and watch that beautiful letter form. Okay, so my B is almost finished. Just a few more stitches to go. And I actually added another frame on the coasters that you saw finished, and I actually added that on another sample that I have here. So as soon as this bee's done, I'm going to show you my finished one. Just the last few stitches. Beautiful metallic thread. You know, you can use any color you want. You could use all one color, and you know, if you really want to whip these up quick, that's another time-saving idea. Okay, so my bee is done, and let me show you the finished one, which has the silver stitching, and then that other added frame that I forgot to mention at the very beginning, but that's an option if you want to add another decorative octagon frame. Do that before you added that final straight stitch one, because that's what I'm going to show you next. So to finish this up, remember I told you this is an in the hoop design. In the hoop means when we're all done, the stitching is going to be all finished. So I've got 2 pieces cut, and I'm going to layer them right over the top. I'm going to tape that down in place. There's lots of different choices for tape. Some people like to use the types that we use for painting projects. That works fine. I like this plastic medical tape because it tears really easy. I'm going to tape the first one down. I'm going to layer the second one over the top, and I will tell you, soup del peony gets a little bit messy, but it's well worth the final results. And what I want to do is I want to actually tape the whole entire piece. If I don't, I run the risk of that stitch maybe bumping over that little hump and moving. So don't waste tape, you know, I mean, don't waste, don't worry about wasting tape. That's what I meant to say, because it's very inexpensive and it's like a little added insurance policy. All right, so I got that taped in place. Let's take this one off. And pop this one on. And normally we would do this with thread that matches the fabric. I'm going to skip forward to the final stitch there, but we're going to go ahead and just do it in the gold, and you'll be able to see it really well. So that final stitch, that final octagon, is just going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to be a little careful here and make sure that's smooth. Don't worry about stitching through the tape. If you have this type of tape or you have the painter's tape, it's not an issue. If it perforates it, no problem. You'll just pull that all the way when you're done. So I think you can see that beautiful octagon forming around. This final stitch takes a minute, and it is a straight stitch, but it goes around 3 times. So that's a good thing, because when we're done with this, the next step is going to be to trim this up. When we trim it, we're going to want to get real close to those corners so that we turn it right side out. We have a sharp corner on each edge. Coming around the final stitches here, and then I'm going to be able to show you how we finish this off. Okay, take that off so that you can see that one. There you go. Let's go over to the table and show you how I finish that. All right, you can see with this one, I've still got my tape here. So I'll pull that off. I've got my stitching around. Very simple matter now of getting rid of all that excess seam allowance. Now, how much? Well, a scant 1/4 inch is just about the right amount. An 1/8 would be too skinny. A 1/4 would be too wide. So I like to do a scant 1/4, which just means a little less than a 1/4. We'll go around all those edges, and then I'm going to clip each one. Just nip those edges. Be careful that you don't get too close to the stitches. Turn that right side out, and I am going to end up with this finished coaster. Now we're ready to switch the machine over to sewing so that I can show you how to sew the bag. First step is to take your piece and sew one bottom seam. The next step is to take that and fold that seam to the middle. We want raw edges facing together, and then we're going to sew two side seams, okay? So one seam on each side. And we're basically creating a French seam. So I've got that step done there. The next step then is to sew a second seam. So you see now it's really starting to look like a bag. I'm gonna add the trim. And I'm adding the trim with a special foot called a braiding foot. I've set up for a zigzag stitch. I've used that cording. It's a simple matter now of just going along, zigzagging along, right around that bag. I would do that all the way around. That's gonna allow me to pull that cord. When I'm done, I've got a beautiful finished bag. I can take that cord, tie it, and fill it.